week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in to Mind Hostage. Today is part 2 in a 4-part series interview with Karla Soloman. Karla shares her life story and how she ultimately became the victim of human trafficking. Please listen in as she shares this tragic story and how she ultimately found her purpose in life.
And I started fighting back. Like, I started elbowing him, and I remember kicking him with my legs. And I remember, I don't know what I connected with, but I guess I hurt him some way. And he loosened the grip on the belt, and I was able to break free from him. And I ran down the stairs and out the door. I didn't grab any of my stuff. My son was at my friend's house down the street. And I just started running, and I was screaming. I was freaked out. Nobody had ever been physically abusive to me until that point that I can remember. So I'm running, and I had my little flip phone in my back pocket. I pulled out my phone, and I just flipped it open, and I hit send, and whoever the last person I talked to, they were fixing to get a disturbing phone call because I didn't care who it was, but somebody needed to help me. Mm-hmm. And turns out this guy that I had been not really, I don't want to say conversating with. If you want the honest truth, I started buying weed from him. So I hit the button, and when I recognized his voice, I was like, this bleepity bleep is trying to kill me. And he's like, Karla? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, where are you at? And I'm like, I'm running down the street. Like, come help me. And so he shows up, and he brings a bunch of his friends, and they got guns, and they're like all thugs and everything, and they make sure I get all my stuff out of my house, or out of his house. They make sure I get to my friends down the street with all my stuff. Right at that moment, she decided that she would let me and my son stay with her. She was going to college at Southern, and she had a little boy a little bit younger than mine, and it was just them two. So she was like, Karla, the boys can stay in a bedroom. She had a 3-bedroom mobile home, so I got the other bedroom by myself. And I stayed with her for probably over a year. And during that time, me and the guy that saved me developed a relationship. He actually started staying with me there at her house and taking care of me and my son. I didn't have to work anymore. He sold drugs. I didn't have to work. Everything was paid for like that. Everything. Bills, food, whatever. And I was enjoying this new lifestyle. I'm not going to lie. He would bring me presents. He would bring me like brand new shoes that I had never had before, ever. And, he really started to care about me, and that's what made him different from everybody else. Years later, turns out that's my husband today. So that's her romantic knight in shining armor story. He came to my rescue whenever I really needed somebody, and he turned out to be a safe place for me.
Right.
Regardless of, his work and all of that. That was like not even like, come on. With the lifestyle I had already lived, that was nothing,
Sure.
To me anyways. Maybe to somebody else, but to me that was like, okay, that was nothing. So I get accustomed to the lifestyle of being the dope man's girlfriend. And, I always had nicer clothes and nicer pocketbooks than everybody, all the other girls and stuff like that. He just always made me up on that pedestal. But things start getting crazy in Baton Rouge. And we had gotten word from the streets, I guess you could call it, that the feds were looking for us. And the description of both of us was out there, and we stand out a lot. You know, my husband is a very tall, muscular black man with gold teeth, and I am very bubbly white girl with crazy hair that, very flamboyant and outgoing. So the word was out there. So we decided to leave. We took all the money that we had, and we moved to this little bitty town called Kerrville. Mm-hmm. And we started to make a life for ourselves here. For a while, it was all going up. It was all uphill. Everything was going good. We ended up getting in a little bit of trouble out here. I did a year in prison. He did a year in prison. All at the same time, we got in trouble together, stolen guns. So we both did a little bit of prison time. My oldest son was probably in first grade at this time. I came home and I really focused on family again and tried to pick up pieces of what, the disaster that we had created. Because obviously we had to start all over, car, house, everything, furniture, clothes, everything. So, and during the time of us being gone, my son stayed with my mom. Well, some of the same trauma that I experienced as a child, my oldest son ended up experiencing staying with my mom for that long. My mom had went from using crack cocaine to pain pills, anxiety pills, any kind of pills. And I was gone that Christmas. And I remember my son crying and crying and crying to me, telling me that his grandma was, I call it nodding off. I don't know if there's an actual term for it, but when you take too many pills and you start to fall asleep doing things, like in plain sight, and you come to all of it like 2 seconds later, and you're like, no, I got it. I'm awake, I got this. She went as far as she got so bad with the pills, that we used to sit there and watch her to see how long the ash would get on her cigarette before it fell. Mm-hmm. Like, she would sit there with her cigarettes in her hand, and she'd start to nod off with her head going down to her lap. And, halfway through, she'd jump and,
she was so
pick it up.
Completely trashed.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is what my son's seen on Christmas morning. His mom's not there. The dad that he does know isn't there. We're both in prison. And the one person that he does have is my grandma, or my mom, which his grandma, and she's passing out in the chair. She don't even know where she's at. So, some of the trauma that I experienced was also experienced by my oldest son, which he still struggles with some of that today. So whenever we did come back home, like I said, we were trying to build a better life, and which we started doing. Things actually got really good. My husband started working the oil fields. Neither of us could really do drugs because I ended up pregnant with my daughter right after I came home from prison. We both had jobs. We both were working. Yeah, I had my daughter. And then I think the doctors told me on my daughter's first birthday, I got pregnant with my son. So all of a sudden, life comes crashing at me. I have a teenager, a toddler, and an infant in the car seat. My husband is working out of town, and I'm trying to hold down a full-time job. Talk about overwhelmed. Oh, and I was also going to college full-time. So I was a general manager at McDonald's, which required a lot of, at-home work also, not just at the store. So I was a general manager for McDonald's, teenager, toddler, infant, and full-time college student. Overwhelmed is by far not even the closest word I can think of to describe my situation right there.
That was like true adulting.
Yes, I had to seriously adult, and you know what? I'm going to be honest, I was not ready for that. Nor did I want to. No. I juggled everything pretty good for a little while. I just couldn't find balance, and it ended up pushing me to doing old habits, and that's what I started doing again. But this time they changed form. I myself started to rely on pills to stay awake, like Adderall or Oxycontins and stuff like that. They give me energy. So I would take those to stay awake, and then I would take Xanax to go to sleep. I ran myself straight into the ground. Like, it just, yeah. Whew. Wow. So I don't know, a lot of people don't realize, but when you abuse Xanax in particular, a lot of your memory is not there. Like, you don't remember things you did the night before, the day before. There was times that I would wake up and go to get clothes out of my closet, and all of a sudden there's like a whole rack of clothes that all have tags on them. Have no idea how they got there. I ain't got no receipt. I used to go to the department stores and steal clothes I did not even remember it. I even have a charge on my record for doing that, and they have me on video, and it's clearly me. Do I have any remembrance, recollection, or memory of it? No, I do not, and I still don't to this day. So, the memory part was a lot of issue for me, because then I would try to do classes and I wouldn't remember nothing that was happening. I would go to work and be almost passed out just the same way my mom would at the computer trying to do work. Things just got really bad. On top of that, I started cheating on my husband. And eventually he found out. And that's probably when life as I knew it changed. I decided to be selfish, and I left. I packed my stuff and I left.
So you were used to running from
your
problems.
Yeah. That was normal to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I left my kids, all three of my kids, and my husband in our apartment. And I took a bag full of clothes and I left. I didn't really keep a lot of contact with my husband for a couple days, couple weeks, maybe a week. I just wouldn't talk to him every time. He'd blow my phone up, but I would not talk to him. I wouldn't answer it, or I'd just let it ring, whatever. So he kept trying to get me to come home, and I didn't want to go. I wasn't ready yet. And so he ended up taking my 3 kids, because he couldn't pay rent by himself, after about a month of him begging me to come home. He took off back to Baton Rouge. He went to go stay with his mom because he didn't have anywhere to take care of my kids, honestly. And I was so selfish and focused on myself and my wants and needs that I didn't even care. How sad is that, I didn't even care. So after I found out that my husband took off with my 3 kids, like the concerned mom that I seemed to be at the time, eye rolling for those that can't see, I was appalled. It's like, you're going to take my kids and leave the state? Like, I freaked out, And I think the main reason that I freaked out is because when he did that, it kind of opened my eyes like, oh no, like I really might lose my kids and, not be in their life. And the one picture that was flashed in front of my face was my mother. And I did not want to be her. I didn't. I never in my life want my kids to feel the same way I did about my mom about me. I don't. That is my probably biggest fear in life, period, is my kids never feeling loved by me. So I took off after him. I tried to fix things with my husband. I moved in at his mom's house. You know, we were staying in one bedroom, all of us, except my oldest. My oldest was staying, he was like, I'm not staying over here with all y'all. He's like, I'm going to my aunt's house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my husband's family for my son became his family. Even though my husband was not his dad, my husband's family, when me and my husband got together, that was his family too. Like right now, my son is at LSU because it's close to my husband's family.
Right,
You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
So that's his family too. He was able to grow up in an environment with other kids his age that had also been through, you know, not really the same similar situations, but, you know, I mean, it's tough living out there. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Especially whenever you don't have a lot of money and there's a whole lot of people in the family. I think my husband is like the oldest of 11, and then all of like my mother-in-laws, all of their kids have kids, and some of those kids have kids. So it's a very big family.
But you know, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand if you haven't grown up in an environment, and I kind of have. I grew up, you know, in my younger years dealing drugs, both in the barrio from where I grew up on the Mexico border, and then kind of in the ghetto, if you will, in the projects of a very large metropolitan area. And it's a different lifestyle. I mean, the life as most people know it, kind of middle America, it's really hard to grasp the what's normal to you is not what's normal to people who are poverty-stricken maybe, or that grow up on the streets.
Yeah.
There's a different set of rules. There's a different norm.
It is very normal to wonder if you're going to eat dinner that night. It is very normal to see many members of your family afflicted by addiction, sex trafficking, like myself, runaways, being taken advantage of and being exploited. That's very normal. We just call it different things than like society today. Now they have a word for all of that. It's trafficking, you know, and all this different kind of stuff falls under that umbrella. I had no idea what trafficking was back then.
Well, and you know, I have to say, you know, kind of just going back to some of the things that you shared earlier, it's really easy for a lot of people, and I've even seen this in the church, and as a matter of fact, I have some people that are close to me, including myself, that have been victim of this, where you're labeled a certain way. How I grew up and what I was used to and what I felt, I didn't really have control over, especially at a young age, yet people on the outside may have labeled you as a slut, as a whore. They may have labeled you as a little troublemaker, as an addict, yet you were living out what was normal on the street and were a victim of those people who exploited you.
Yeah. And it's funny that you said slut first, because that was the main thing I was called in school.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you fell into their label because they didn't live that life.
And you know, I'm going to be honest, because of that label from all my peers, I grew up honestly thinking that whenever I was 12 years old and all that was going on, that I made that choice.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up thinking that that was all my fault, that I put myself there, that I agreed to it, so it was my choice.
Not to mention, I mean, you feel ridiculed at every turn.
Yeah. And the only kind of love or attention that I would experience at that time in my life was sex with older men for a place to stay or food. That was the only love I had. So coming into a relationship with somebody that really started to care about me for who I was, I always thought I wasn't worthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I always tried to destroy it. I would do things to my husband to intentionally try to push him away. Because in my head, everybody left me all my life. So in my head, I was just waiting for him to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually took for me to have to do something stupid, like cheat on my husband and then leave the house and all this, for me to see that he really did care. But it didn't end there.
Oh, it didn't. So that wasn't it.
No.
You didn't move back in, got together, and then lived happily ever after. There was
Not
more.
even close.
Wow. Okay.
So this is about the summer of 2016 that all this is going on. And we're living in Baton Rouge with my mother-in-law, and we had lost everything we had. When my husband left, he left all the furniture, all the kids' toys. He left everything. He was so hurt when he left. He didn't want any of that as a memory, and I don't blame him. But, you know, we had to start over. And I got a job at Sonic, but it wasn't nothing like my paycheck that I was getting as a general manager and as a full-time college student, because I had so many grants that I was getting paid to go to school, basically. So, you know, it was very slow process to try and work on things, especially whenever we go back to Baton Rouge. That's our old stomping grounds. So what do you think came back into the picture?
Yeah, some of the same old people.
Some of the same old people, the same old habits, and it didn't get good. I mean, you know, we were trying to work on things, but we were constantly arguing, and just it was so much.
So you'd reintroduce drugs into the equation?
Yes.
Is that the deal?
Yes. And so we were both popping ecstasy pills, and I was taking Adderalls at work, and, you know, taking Xanax again to fall asleep at night, and it was just bad. So I started cheating again. And my husband caught me again, and I left again. Took my stuff and got in my car and went off on my own. Found a little place to stay. It was it's not the best ideal place. I rented a room in this house that was close to one of the colleges in Baton Rouge. The other 4 people that stayed in their little rooms, you know, it was like 4-bedroom house, and we all shared a bathroom. You know, the other people that lived in the house were very nice. Everything was cool. Nobody really cared that I would bring whatever to the house, you know, craziness. I started doing things like music videos for up-and-coming rappers in the area. Like, I really put myself out there in the middle of the most ruthless and cutthroat, I guess you would call them, gangsters on the street.
So you put
like,
yourself right into that mix.
Right into it. So these guys that I did a video for, they had used me and my car in the video, and I had been at their video shoot all day long, and, you know, it was just, I thought that was something I wanted to do. And I quickly found out otherwise.
Right, there was probably a lot of flash and money
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
and a lot of it was what people seen from the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good front. That was a good mask to put on for me, you know. And Like, I remember even getting phone calls from my husband after the video was released. He was like, "What in the world is wrong with you, Karla? You're in videos with guns and a whole bunch of guys. Like, what are you doing?" And of course, I was, "Don't tell me what to do. This is my life. I'm going to do what I want to do."
And in the meantime, you probably weren't spending a whole lot of quality time with your kids.
No, not even close.
Mm-hmm.
I would call my kids before bed at night sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not even going to lie about that.
Yeah.
And I'm not proud of that. That hurts more than a lot of what I've been through.
Sure it does. Especially when the one thing that you wanted at some time back was to not be what your mother was, and then now you feel yourself failing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to cover all that up, I did those kinds of things.
It's a self-perpetuating cycle. Yeah, it is.
So I got to explain how I got in the situation of hiding, of really hiding. Same guys I did the video for, after the video shoot was done, they all get into my car. "What are y'all doing? Like, y'all ain't coming with me." And it's really weird how this one situation happened. Because if you look at my past and you look at everything that had happened up to this point, you would honestly think that I was totally game for what was going on, you know. So I was never paid for the music video, which they said that they were going to pay me, whatever. So when they start trying to get in my car, I was already mad. Like, you didn't pay me no money. I've been out here all day. Like, you know, and me personally at the time, I was mad because I haven't smoked no weed. I didn't have no cigarettes. Like, you know, I was not intoxicated by any means. And that upset me.
Mm-hmm.
That pissed me off because all these guys are in these videos and they're flashing this and flashing that. And, you know, I'm going to be honest, and they weren't either that I know of. But, you know, because this was like a somewhat professional thing. So, whenever, you know, everything that the video itself was, I would have called it ghetto. Honestly, like, it was ratchet. This guy did a music video outside of his grandma's house. These guys are in a boat sitting in the driveway on a trailer with all these guns, thinking that they are so cool. It was, I mean, now that I think, it was hilarious. Even then I thought it was kind of funny. Like, really? So anyways, these guys all get in my car. Everything that was in that video that day, jewelry, drugs, money, guns, every bit of it was in my car. All of it. Like, medallions, like the size of my face with diamonds, stuff like this. Like, you know, chains that were bigger than my thumb. So they tell me to go back to my house. So that's where we go. Took them back to my little room, and they all get inside, and I honestly thought that we were all fixing to sit down and smoke the night away. Little did I know they had other plans. They expected me, in order to get my payment for the video, they wanted me to sleep with all four of them. Not today. I wasn't having it. Like, I don't know what it was that clicked in me that day, and I was just like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I am tired of people automatically assuming that I'm going to be that girl, you know, and it actually infuriated me to the point that I told them, I was like, you know what? You're right. Yeah, sure. Let me go to the bathroom first. I had a brand new car, you know. I could start it from my little key fob, and I always kept my key fob in my bra. always. And I left my purse. Like, I leave everything in my car. I'd rather it be in my car because of the alarm rather than in my room where somebody can break down the door and I'd been gone for 2 days and everything's gone. So all my stuff's already in the car. Anything that's in that little bitty room, what are they going to do? Take my clothes, my makeup, and my hair products? Because that's all that was in there. What, peanut butter and jelly and bread? So I went to the bathroom and looked down in my bra. Yep, sure, there enough. There's my car keys. I sneak out of the bathroom, and I go jump in my car, and I take off by myself. I start getting all these phone calls asking me where I'm at, and it's the guys. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, y'all are on y'all's own. Like, whatever, figure out a way home. Whenever I come back to my apartment, and I want y'all gone. That's all I said. And he calls me back, and he starts calling me names and all this craziness, and tells me that all of his stuff is still in my car. I'm driving, and I'm at a red light, and and like Walmart's like 2 blocks away from me. And I look back in my back seat. There's backpacks. There's guns sitting on the seat. There's jewelry in my little cup holder. I started realizing, I just stole all those guys' stuff. All of it. So I pulled over at Walmart, and I get out of my car, and I kind of take inventory. Start going through everything. All these backpacks and all these different things, and I came up with like 14 bottles of codeine, a big old sack of weed. I even found heroin. Never even done it. Still haven't to this day, but I found it. I found jewelry. I found guns, multiple guns, big guns, small guns, all kinds of stuff. So I didn't know what to do. I really didn't. I reached out to one of my friends, and she told me to come pick her up. And I did. We get in my car, and we go from Baton Rouge to Donaldsonville, which is probably like a hour drive or so, maybe a little bit longer. And I start hiding because all of a sudden I start getting all these messages, people calling me. My own brother-in-law called me, and he's like, Karla, what did you do? He was like, the word is out on the street. Like, you jacked those dudes. And I'm like, I didn't jack. I'm like, that wasn't my intention. Mm-hmm. I was just trying to get away from them, honestly. Did not even realize that I had jacked them until I realized it was all in my car. So I didn't have any way to make money, and I knew I needed to hide. So I start selling the drugs, selling the guns, selling everything that was in the car, because I had to hide. These guys, they went up to my job with a hollow tip bullet with my name written in Sharpie on there and dropped it off. My brother-in-law worked with me at Sonic, and he called me, and he was like, Karla, do not come to Gonzales at all. And I'm like, why? And he's like, don't come to Sonic. He was like, you might as well just quit. And I was like, why do you say that? And he was like, dude, them dudes are looking for you. They are trying to kill you because of what you did. You disrespected them right on the same day that they made the biggest music video they had ever made at that point, So that was kind of like on the streets. You know this. Mm-hmm. That's a spit in the face. That is just disrespect beyond. So these guys had told the streets, or put the word out on the streets, that if anybody could bring them me and this certain chain that had their record label name on it, Rough and Rugged Records, if they could bring me and that chain, they would pay him $30,000, because that was supposedly what the chain was worth. So I had people looking for me. And I'm very well known, and I'm very well spotted, like easily spotted.
Especially with a bounty on your head.
With a bounty on my head, and like people know me. like, all of a sudden, I did not trust nobody. I didn't even trust the girl that I had sitting with me that I was feeding drugs to the whole time. Do you get what all of a sudden, all my walls went up. I got so scared. So I tell my husband what's going on. And he tells me to go chill at his brother's house, his stepbrother's house, Travis, until we figure something out. And Travis stays all the way on the other side of Baton Rouge, way away from where all this is going on. And it's like a turf war going on between that side and this side at the time. Still is, probably. So the guys from this town won't go on that side. Like, they won't cross that parish line to go over in their territory. So I go and hide in enemy territory. You get what I mean? So my brother-in-law is kind of hiding me out. I sold him the last gun that I had for $250. It was a MAC-10. And I sold him the gun, and that was the last little bit of money that I had because I had already sold everything else. I had already been running for like 2 weeks. So every bit of money I did have was going towards food, gas to drive around, and a place to sleep at night. Hotels, mainly. So me and Travis are riding in my car one night, and I was scared to drive because I did not want somebody spotting me. So I would always sit in the passenger side with the seat laid way back and, like just kind of looking barely out the very small crack in the window at the bottom, just barely looking over so that nobody would see me. So I was hiding for real. So Travis told me, he was like, well, I'm going to pick up one of my homeboys. And I was like, I don't want nobody in the car. And he's like, no. Like, seriously, Karla, he's going to fix one of my tattoos. And I was like, yeah, but you know my situation. Why would you? I don't want nobody in the car. And he kept telling me, like a little bit about the guy. Like, no, his name's Fat. Like, he's real cool. He don't even like going back to that town. Like, he stays on this side now. And when he told me that, I was like, oh, okay. Because I knew he was from over there on the other side. Mm-hmm. Or that's what he had told me. He was like, yeah, he's from Donaldsonville too. And I was like, wait a minute. He was like, no, he stays over here now. Oh, okay, gotcha. I understand that. So he goes to these apartments, and this guy gets in the back seat. Within the first 5 minutes of him being in my car, he had just about every bit of information that he needed to know who I was. I was sitting in the front seat in the passenger side, still kind of slouched down, and he was sitting behind me. And I didn't know this guy, never had met him. But he was looking over my shoulder, like looking over the seat, watching me on my phone. And I was on Instagram, like just scrolling on Instagram, double tap that and just looking at pictures and stuff. And I hear him say, wait, go back. Huh? He was like, go back to that other picture. And by this time, he's like really close to me over the seat, like with his head at the top of the seat. And he's whispering to me so that Travis can't hear. And he's like, yeah, that one, that picture. Your butt looks really cute in that picture. Huh. And then he sits back and doesn't say anything. And then he leans up a couple minutes later. He's like, hey, what's your Instagram name? I told him. He just gave me a compliment. You're going to put all these nice compliments out there on social media? Yeah, I'm going to give it to you. This is my Instagram. Oh, by the way, this is my Facebook. You want my phone number too? Like, I'm just willingly giving all of this information to this man that I don't even know because he showed a little bit of attention to me. So he figures out that who my husband is. He figures out that I have kids. figures out, we're not together. And then he puts the 2 and 2 of who I am and what I've done and why my name sounded so familiar to him.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's talking about me. Everybody's looking for me. And I got scared. And I was like, please don't call them. I started getting scared. I thought that once he put 2 and 2 together, he was about to make a paycheck off of me.
Mm-hmm.
He was about to make a paycheck, but it wasn't nowhere near $30,000. It was a whole lot more. He told me, he's like, no. He was like, do you need help? What?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's ever asked me if I needed help. Are you serious? So I was like, yeah, I really don't have anywhere to go. I'm hiding. I don't want to be hurt. I'm just ready for all of this to be over. So, I just wanted everything to stop. I was tired of running. I was tired of trying to stay up on drugs, to be on the alert for somebody to come and kill me. The picture that I had in my head was my head on a platter. Honestly, that's what these guys wanted. And I was just waiting to meet the right person that had the balls enough to do it. And I thought that was going to be him. No, he told me that he wanted to help me. So he takes me to his house and lets me sleep there. He started to build a relationship with me. He became somebody that I really trusted, somebody that I thought I could count on, somebody that I thought, even though my life was a mess, still wanted to be in my life, still, I didn't feel like I was a burden to someone else for once. I'd always felt that way growing up. It's I passed around to family members, stuff like that. I felt like I was a burden to everybody. This guy didn't make me feel that way. He made me feel like he wanted me there, that he wanted my attention, that he wanted everything about me, good or bad. And so whenever, our relationship started out of him just helping me at first. And of course, the first night that we had met, I'm not even gonna lie and cut corners or nothing, because it's in the police report. You can read it. First night that we were together, I slept with him in the backseat of my car. It started out as an intimate relationship with each other. That was common for me, though. That was not unusual. What was unusual was for someone to, one, spend so much money on me without anything in return. Two, the attention that he showed me and the interest that he took in every single word that I said. He would ask me the most off-the-wall questions. Things like, things that I thought my husband should have, at some point in our relationship, asked these same questions but never did. Things like, what did you want to be when you were a kid, when you grew up? What did you really want to be? When you were 4 or 5? Was it a princess? Was it, questions like these. I wanted, personally, to be a marine biologist. I wanted to study everything underwater, and I wanted to be the first one to find a mermaid. That's the truth. And I told him the truth. Every single thing that I told him about myself, he used as fuel for the fire later. He would take me to malls and go get my hair done, my nails done, my toes done, tanning and brand new clothes, fancy restaurants, fancy hotels, whoa. He would spend all day with me, and right before everything flipped, he took me to the aquarium in New Orleans. somewhere I had always wanted to go my entire life, never had the money to go, and nobody would ever really care about taking me, so he did. And that was when everything changed. He rented a hotel room at the Hyatt, and after he completely, spent all of his attention and time and pampering me and all this kind of stuff, treating me like I was a princess, he has this long talk with me, and he's telling me about how it's important to have honor and trust in a relationship, whether we were together or just friends or just any relationship in general. He's talking about honor and trust and respect, things like this. And he starts making kind of like stipulations with me in this conversation. And he's telling me, he's like, well, I need you to, if I tell you that you need to do something, I need you to respect me enough to do it and trust me enough that I'm telling you to do it for all the right reasons. Okay. I had no idea what was coming on the other side of the curtain. So he's telling me all this, and we have this long, long talk about honor and trust, respect and loyalty, and he told me that if I could not agree to everything he said that night, that we would part ways right then and there, and that he'd never bother me again. Well, at that point in my life, other than my husband, that was the only person that ever even took an interest in me like that. And I didn't want to lose that. He had gotten me accustomed to living a pretty lavish lifestyle. I did not have to spend money or work or, it all came from him. And I had the brand new pocketbook, the brand new purses, brand new shoes, brand new phone, everything. Brand new. I didn't want to lose that. It's the first time in my life I'd ever been spoiled, And so I was like, well, I don't want you to leave. Like, why would I want you to leave? I'll agree to whatever you want me to. Like, what do you want me to agree to? So later that night, he tells me, he's like, well, come on, let's go. Let's go get in the car. Where are we going? Don't worry about it. Don't ask. Oh, okay. He had done that to me before, but the place that we had got was like a surprise for me. So when I get in the car, I'm like, oh, okay, surprise. I'm excited. And we get in the car, and I'm driving. He's in the passenger side. And he tells me to go down Airline Highway in Baton Rouge. And, turn off here and da-da-da-da-da. We're in a bad part of the neighborhood. I'm like, wait, hold on. Where are we going? Like, I know this neighborhood. And back then, what I thought was prostitution. These hotels that we pulled into, called the Belle Rose in Baton Rouge, was a very high trafficking area. And back then I thought it was prostitution. So he had me pull up at this door. This girl walks out, and she's probably about 16. She has long red hair. And she's got fishnet stockings on and really, really high heels. And I take one look at her, and I know she's young. You could tell. But I was like, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? I knew in the pit of my stomach, I was like, no, please let this be his little sister that he's trying to rescue or something like that. Like, I did not see anything going good from that point on. I really didn't. So she comes and gets in the car, and she gets in the back seat behind him and hands her phone to him. And it's got a maps pulled up and a GPS location already plugged in there. So you see the little arrow. He hands me the phone. He said, drive. I'm driving. Going wherever we're supposed to be going. I didn't know if we were about to go drop this girl off. Like, I had no clue. None. So we get to the first stop, and He's like, now I need you to listen to me because I'm going to tell you exactly how I want you to do stuff. Okay, you have my attention. You know, like I didn't say that, but I'm like, okay, what? As soon as we get to this, close to this address on the GPS, he has me turn the lights off in the middle of the road and, park on the other side of the street facing this way, and just very, what do you want to call that? I guess like detailed instructions of what I'm supposed to do, where I'm supposed to park, how I'm supposed to face, roll the windows up, turn the lights on, like all of this. And I had never done none of this before. I mean, come on. Drug deals I've been in the middle of, but nothing like this. So he's telling me all this stuff, and I'm doing it to the best of my ability. And once I stop the car, she gets out, goes inside, and comes back 30 minutes later or whatever, gets back in the same spot, hands him money, hands him the phone again with another GPS location on it. He hands the phone to me and $50 and tells me to keep driving. So I do it. So I'm driving to the next location. Same thing happens. He tells me instructions, da-da-da. She gets out, goes inside, gets back in the car with money, hands it to him, hands him the phone. Next location. This goes on all night long until the sun comes up. And then when the sun was coming up, he had me drop her off at that same hotel. And then we would go back to his house, and he would tell me, be ready at this time tomorrow, whatever. If you don't want to stay here, you go stay at your house or whatever. Like, he gave me that freedom at that time. But he told me, you need to be here tomorrow at 4 o'clock to pick me up. Okay. Went back the next day, picked him up, same thing. Picked up a different girl. But the same thing happened all night long until daybreak. And there was even, I think, a time that we went and stopped back by that same hotel, paid for another night, and she gave him more money from, I guess, whatever she was working out of the hotel. So all of this goes on like this for, I want to say, about a week, maybe longer. And the redhead is with us again. And we drive way, way, way out to Covington, which is like an hour and 45-minute drive one way just to get there, one way. Way out of the way, way in the middle of nowhere. And she goes, and we park. She goes inside the house. She comes back kind of fast. And she doesn't have any money this time. So I have no GPS location. I don't know where I'm at. He just tells me to drive. So I listen. We find our way back to the interstate. We get on I-10, and we start heading back towards Baton Rouge. When we got to Houma, Louisiana, which is kind of in the middle point, it's kind of right before the Pontchartrain bridge. So it's on the other side, so that's like where it's all swamp. He had me pull over at this little abandoned, like, it's not really a rest stop. I would really call it a fishing hole now, I guess, right up underneath the bridge. It's like just a slab of concrete.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people go out there to go fishing because, it's deep water right there. So he made me park the car under the bridge, turn the lights off. And he gets out of the car, and he walks around and gets her out of the car by grabbing her and jerking her out. And I guess she knew what was about to happen, because as soon as he opened the door, she starts screaming, "No, no, 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 no." He pulled her to the back of my car where the trunk was. And he told me to stay in the car before he shut the door. So I'm sitting at the steering wheel with both of my hands on the steering wheel, and I'm watching him in my rearview mirror And all I can hear is her screaming, and I can hear his fist like connecting with her body.
We appreciate you tuning in to today's episode and hope you'll tune in for part 3 of this 4-part series where Karla shares her story in an effort to shed light on this tragic industry. Again, you can reach the show by emailing us at themindhostage@gmail.com, or you can visit our website at www.mindhostage.com.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.